Let's now learn how to evaluate functions from graphs and equations. Alright, so please remember that your f of x, the function notation, you call this as function notation, it's the same as the y. Alright, so f of x is just y. By the way, you read this as f of x, f of x. So in this video, I'm going to show examples on how to evaluate functions given a graph and from equations. Let's begin from graphs. All right, so we have here a graph. This is actually a quadratic function, all right? And we're going to find the following, all right? So first, we have f of -1, okay? You read it as f of -1. So if you say f of -1, it means that the number inside, remember the format f of x, the number inside is your x, okay? This number here is your x, and then the answer to f of -1 is actually the value of the y, the value of the y. Okay, so how do you get the value of y? You use the graph. Okay, so first you go to x equals -1. Remember, this is your x-axis here. X -1 is right here. That's your -1, and then from there you go up where the graph is until it touches the graph. So at -1, the graph, the part of the graph with x -1 is right here, and so the corresponding value of y is right here, 4. All right, so you begin with x -1, and then you go up to the graph. If your graph is on the upper part, then you go up to where there's the graph, and then the corresponding value of y for this point is 4. So the answer here is actually a positive 4. Okay, so you say f of -1 is equal to 4, where x is -1 and your y is 4. That's what it means to evaluate graphs. Next, we have f of 0. We'll find f of 0. So if you have f of 0, it means that the value of x is 0. So if we go to the graph, we look at this x-axis, because that's what we have, the x. We go to the number 0. Okay, this is 0 here. And then, since the graph is on the upper part, so we go up until it touches the graph, and it's right down here. Okay, and then the value of y is 1, right? For 0, at this point, it's 1. So the answer in here, f of 0 is actually a value is 1. F of 0 is 1, okay? Wherein x is 0, y is 1. So 0 for x and y 1. All right, and then the last for the graphs, we're going to find x when f of x is equal to 4. So this problem is a bit different because it's this time we're looking for the value of x, right? We're going to find the value of x. So, but this is what is given. Remember, f of x, this f of x is just the y, okay, which is equal to a 4. Okay, so that means we begin from there. This time we begin from the y, which is our f of x, which is 4, and then so here, and then if you notice, if you go left, there's the part of the graph, okay, in here, and the corresponding value of x is -1, okay, so one of our answers is -1, but then as you can see, there's still another part of the graph right down here, so that means we will have a second answer. So when when y is 4, the value of the graph can also be 3. All right, when x is 4, there's also this part of the graph and it's equal to 3. So we have two answers, -1 and a positive 3. Okay, so sometimes you can have two values of x for one value of y, sometimes not. But in this graph, we have two values of x. All right, our next set of examples will be evaluating given an equation. So here, as you can see, we will evaluate this function here. This function, this is actually a quadratic because the highest exponent is 2. We will find f of -3. Okay, so to evaluate a function, first is you should know the value of x. So in here, if it says f of -3, that means our x value is actually a -3, the number inside this parentheses. So that's our x value, which is -3. Okay, and then since we now know x, we will use this equation here and just replace every x with a parenthesis. Okay, so we need to rewrite it here. F of x becomes -3, All right. And then equals. And then you see that minus, and the x becomes another negative 3 in parentheses. All right, with a square. Minus 8, and that x is another negative 3. Okay, so you just rewrite the equation by changing x to negative 3. And then, after doing that, we just simplify the left side. All right, I'm going to show you the fastest way to simplify this, and that is using the Desmos Scientific Calculator. Let me show it. All right, so to simplify only the right side, okay, we will only input the right side. So all you have to do is you type all of this, type this in your Desmos Scientific Calculator, exactly how it appears in here. So I'll begin with a negative, and then parentheses, negative 3 with a squared, and then minus 8, sorry, and then parentheses again, negative 3. All right, so just type it in the Desmos Scientific and you'll see the answer in this side, positive 15. So therefore, the answer, f of negative 3, your f of negative 3 is actually a positive 15. So the answer is negative 15. I mean positive, sorry, positive 15 from our calculation. All right, our next example for equations. So we have here f of x equals 4x squared plus 1. We will evaluate or find the value of f of 5 over 8 in simplest form. Simplest form means simplest fraction form. All right, so take note, if you have f of 5/8, that means the value of your x is 5/8. So this is your x, 5/8. So to find f of 5 over 8, we just use this equation here. Just rewrite this equation, but change x to 5 over 8. So if we do that, so we'll begin with f of x becomes 5 over 8. So f of 5 over 8 is equal to, we have here a 4, x, replace it with parentheses 5 over 8 squared plus 1. Right? Just rewrite, but change every x to parentheses 5 over 8. And then we just simplify this right side using our Desmos calculator. So we just need to type in this right side exactly how it appears in here. We just need to type it in here. So we have 4 and then parentheses 5 over 8, close it with a then squared, and then plus 1. Okay, so you see, you just type it in there and you will see, if you see a fraction in there, just click this button here and it will give you the simplest form, because that's what is asked. We need to write the answer in simplest form. So 41 over 16 is the final answer. So if we go back to this problem here, so f of 5 over 8, f of 5 over 8 is equal to 41 over 16. All right, so for our final example in equations, so we have here the equation g of x is equal to negative x minus 1. But this time, we're going to find or solve for x. We're not solving for g of x, we're solving for x. We're looking for the value of x. And the given is g of x. Remember that g of x is just your y. All right, g of x is your y is equal to a positive 3. Okay, so how do you find the x? So we just make use of the equation here. Again, the equation, what is given is g of x. So this g of x, we just replace this with a 3. So if we rewrite that equation again, because we know that g of x is 3, so we just change this g of x to 3. So 3, okay, and then equals, just bring down or write down the right side. Okay, now you have this equation. Remember solving equations, the 3 steps, parentheses for the first one, which we don't have, so we skip that. Second is move the variable to the left and constants to the right. All right, so this variable, negative x, will be moved to the other side. Okay, and if we do that, that negative will become a positive x, and then equals, the negative 1 will stay there, and this positive 3 is a constant. It should be in this side, so from positive it becomes a negative number. Right, that's step 2. Step 3 is, we simplify now. X equals negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. Well, we found the answer. X is equal to negative 4.